I love movies.
I also love movies, Keanu. Do you think people should subscribe to my channel and like the video?
No, yeah.
Alright, you heard it from John Wick himself, so make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, but let's get right into the video. Yo, what's up everyone? I hope you're doing well. Today I decided to rank all the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts movies since I just did a rewatch on them, and I don't have a ranking yet on my channel, but this is going to be my ranking of the Harry Potter movies. Leave your ranking down below in the comments, but let's get right into it. Alright, last up on the list, I got Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. This movie left me really disappointed when I left the theater and saw it, because the last 15 minutes show a lot of great action and magic, but this movie just lacks a whole lot of magic, which should be what the Harry Potter franchise is about. But Johnny Depp is very good in this movie, Jude Law is also very good, and Eddie Redmayne's awesome in these three movies, but this movie just didn't do too much for me in the magical world for me to really care about it. Next up, I got the first Fantastic Beasts movie, which I think is just okay. There's a little bit going on in this movie, but still not enough for me to really care about these characters or the whole world, because we don't have any Hogwarts in this movie, so it kind of feels like a downer in some ways, and Fantastic Beasts movies just lack magic and like relationships of what should be going on. Harry Potter should be dealing with the school of Hogwarts, and this movie just has nothing in it. But I do enjoy some parts with the beasts in it, and Newt Scamander, meeting him was kind of cool, but overall it's also just disappointing. Next up, I got The Secrets of Dumbledore. This is my favorite Fantastic Beasts movie, but it's still not great. We do have Mads Mikkelsen in here taking over for Johnny Depp, Jude Law, Ezra Miller. All the cast does a great job, and also the same thing happened with me in this movie. The last 15-20 minutes are really good Harry Potter, but the rest is just so empty in my opinion. It's just, I love how there's a fight going on between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, but that didn't get explored much in these movies. These movies are just about Newt, and they should have been about Dumbledore and Grindelwald. I know they're getting to it, they were going to get to it, and they're not making them anymore, but they really did mess up these movies a lot, but there still is some fun moments in this one. Alright, next up, we're finally into the Harry Potter movies. Last up on Harry Potter, I got Chamber of Secrets. These Harry Potter movies, all 8 of them, are all great in my opinion. All 8 or above out of 10. But Chamber of Secrets falls at the bottom for me because even though there is like a great ending in the whole chamber, I feel like the first half is just a little slow and it tries to focus on too much stuff, really to get me too interested. And the whole Chamber of Secrets part is kind of interesting, but I feel like the movie was just a little slow in that first half for me to be fully engaged. Next up, we got The Order of the Phoenix. This movie goes really deep into the mythology of Harry Potter, which I liked. We find out about Voldemort, what he's doing. We kind of learn more about the Horcruxes in this one, which was awesome. The whole Chamber of Secrets part in the last 20 minutes was just so cool in my opinion. And then we had the whole beginning part. I like seeing all the kids like grow up in this one with Dumbledore's army. They're finally forming it. That's really cool. And I feel like this movie just is it starts getting a lot darker in the series, and that's really what made me love Harry Potter, was how dark it became for like a young adult series. So this one gets greater than Chamber of Secrets in a big way. It's kind of a big jump for me, but I do like the last battle between Voldemort and Dumbledore. That is just so intense. Next up, I got Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone. Doesn't really matter in my opinion, but this is a great first entry into the Harry Potter world. It's a long movie, but it does cover like basically a majority of the whole book, I think, because it's a very short book, one of the shortest in the series, but this movie is very long. It has a lot of stuff going on in it, but it's just a wonderful adaptation and entry into this magical world, because you're with Harry, and in the beginning you don't know he's a wizard if you've never read the books, but then he becomes a wizard, and you go to Hogwarts for the first time, and that shot on the water looking up at the castle is so magical. It's just such a wonderful movie. It's a very heartfelt movie and a fun movie compared to the others until you get to the end, I guess. But even the Christmas scenes and the snow scenes are just really amazing and heartwarming. And then we finally find out who Voldemort is kind of in the end. And going into the forest was awesome. There's a lot of fun moments in this movie. and even this is the start of the Quidditch, which is just so awesome. And all the actors nailed it in this movie, and Chris Columbus did a wonderful job directing this first entry. Alright, number 5 is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I have so much fun watching this movie. I can just turn this movie on like whenever and I have such a fun time, because you don't even have to really watch it with the other ones. I mean, kind of at the end, but this one you can just put on as like a singular Harry Potter movie and just really enjoy it. Because the first part where they go into the Quidditch tournament is awesome, but I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. That would have been really cool. I feel like this one veers the most away from the book, in my opinion, because I remember in this book, I think it's this book, we get to have more time with Dobby, and we get to see all the house elves making all the food for them. That's where all the food comes from below, where the house elves are making it. And we don't actually get to see Dobby in this movie or the house elves, which is kind of leaving me disappointed, because it would have really been cool to see all the kitchens down below and how they really had that come to life. But I guess this movie is really full, so I guess putting that in it would just not work. But we had Mad-Eye Moody in this movie, the real one and the fake one. Mad-Eye Moody is such an awesome character. And we had the whole Triwizard Tournament. Triwizard Tournament is one of my favorite things about the Harry Potter world. It's really cool to watch it all unfold. Every challenge is awesome. The Dragon Challenge is my favorite though, because it's such a very like exciting moment when they're flying by the castle. Those scenes are just awesome. They nail those the flying scenes. They just nailed those. And the whole ending, the forest when they get transported by the Portkey, and where Voldemort's grave is, and Voldemort comes back to life. That is just so surreal. That's where Voldemort just comes back. No one believes him, but that's where it gets deep and dark in this series. And this one holds a special place in my heart because it's just so much fun. Alright, number 4, I got Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. A lot of people would have this top 3 or number 1, but I do love this movie a lot. It sits like at a 9 out of 10 for me. This movie has a lot more lore in it and a lot more world building that you'd think. We have Professor Lupin, which is I think one of the best teachers in these movies, Defense Against the Dark Arts. We have the whole Dementors finally enter the world. The Dementors are actually very scary, and they're such a simple design, but they're really menacing in my opinion. And this whole movie is it's darker than the other ones because Alfonso Cuarón directs this one. You can notice it from the first shot how it's all handheld. In some shots, it's very cool. We see the night bus in this one. It has a lot of awesome moments. Draco in this one gets punched in the face by Hermione. They have the whole time turner scene. When that time turner scene happened and I first saw this movie, I was like, what the hell is happening? This is so cool, but I don't know what's happening. But I fully understand what time travel is now. But it's just such a cool scene. My favorite scene from this movie, though, has to be when they're playing Quidditch in the whole rain, the hard pouring rain. That's so cool. And then he goes up to the sky, and then he gets just hunted down by all the Dementors, and then he just falls off his broom, and Dumbledore does the spell and saves him. That whole scene has some beautiful cinematography and imagery. It's awesome, and it really feels really intense, like Harry is actually in trouble, but he ends up getting saved. But that scene has to be one of my favorites. But that's number 4 because I love this movie so much. Alright, this is a hot take, but my number 3 is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This movie is probably the darkest movie in this series, I would think. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is pretty dark, but I think Half-Blood Prince is the darkest movie because it has just so much levity and emotion going on in it. And even the first scene when everyone's attacking like all the Muggle world, and when you go to Hogsmeade and stuff, it's very dark there. All the shops are closed. But this movie just is, I didn't think it was that great the first time I watched it when I was younger, but the more I've grown up to where I am now, I think this movie is just top 3 Harry Potter in so many ways, because we see all the relationships between Harry, Hermione, Ron, Dumbledore, Snape, and Draco. These relationships are fleshed out so well in this movie, and what David Yates is able to do in this movie is really cool. All the imagery and cinematography in this one is the strongest, I think, of the whole series, because we also have Professor Slughorn in this one. I think Professor Slughorn is just hilarious, and this movie holds my funniest part in the Harry Potter universe. It's when Harry takes the liquid luck and he's just like, it seems like he's just high and just having so much fun. He's just on drugs. It's like, it's so funny to watch Daniel Radcliffe act like that because Harry is just not like that. But that scene is just so funny. And then the whole last, I think it's the last 45 minutes, we go with Dumbledore and Harry to the cave. And the whole cave scene is just so intense. Dumbledore is like at his last life because his hand is just, because he tried to destroy a Horcrux and all that. And then Harry gets pushed under the water in the cave and all of the monsters start coming up. And Dumbledore just unleashes fire, a circle of fire basically around them. That's such a cool moment in this series. And then we go back to Hogwarts and then we have the horrible moment, Dumbledore's death, but it's shot so well. The emotion is really there. Harry feels it. He runs after Snape. And then we get the reveal of Snape being the Half-Blood Prince, which is so awesome. The way he says it is just so cool. And then the ending of this movie feels like they're basically heading to war because it leads up to the Deathly Hallows so well. And I'm so jealous of people that got to experience this in the movie theater because this movie is just so good. The emotion in this movie, the relationships between everyone, the cinematography, it's amazing. Number 2 on my list is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. I really adore this one a lot more than other people. I have this as a 5 out of 5, same with number 1 on my list. Because this one I also didn't appreciate a lot when I was younger, just like Half-Blood Prince, but right now I really do appreciate this movie a lot. Some people say it's very slow, which I do understand, but if you're not with really the dialogue in the relationships between Harry, Hermione, and Ron in those camp scenes, then you will find it's boring. But I was really with the relationships, and the cinematography in this one is just also really beautiful. It kind of starts out in the beginning where they're all turning into the Harrys. That's pretty cool. And then they all go onto their brooms and start heading to Ron's house, and some of the members die. Mad Eye. Then I think it's Fred or George get really injured, and we also have some other deaths. But oh yeah, one of the hardest hitting deaths of this whole series is Hedwig. Hedwig is just, oh my gosh, Hedwig was so good in these movies. But Hedwig did sadly die in this one. It's so sad. These deaths really get you after 8 or 7 movies. It's horrible. But they go to Ron's house. They get their presents that Dumbledore left for them. And then they basically get hunted down by Voldemort and the Dementors. And they can't stay there anymore. So they basically have to just run away. And then they go to Gringotts. I think it's No, it's the Ministry of Magic. They go to Ministry of Magic undercover. That whole 30-minute scene of them undercover in Gringotts, and then they see Umbridge. Oh, when they see Umbridge, it's so intense because Harry just hates Umbridge. But I forgot to say that Umbridge in Order of the Phoenix is just one of my favorite villains, even though I hate her, but that's what makes a villain. But when we see Umbridge in this one, and then Harry says, "You must not tell lies," it's awesome. And then when you see Umbridge in kind of the hearing, you see above, you see all the Dementors they put into the Ministry. It's just horrible. The corruption that's had into the Ministry in this movie is so horrifying. But when they're running out of the Ministry, Ron gets hurt and all that, and they go to they're finally in like the woods. This is where all the camping scenes start. Some of my favorites in the series because I really dig their relationships in this movie. And then they're holding onto the locket, which is basically turning Ron like, not evil, but he's turning him against Harry and Hermione because it's just like making him like so mad and down. And he basically runs off, and then we have basically all these sad scenes or like relationship building scenes between friends in Hermione and Harry, which I really enjoyed. Them dancing is just really awesome. Then they head to the houses. I forgot what the houses were, but it might be Harry's old house. I think that's what it is. And they basically retrieve some sort of thing from that. I forgot because that one's just not fresh in my brain, that part. But I remember they have this. Then there's the snake. Nagini is there, and then they have to run away from it. And then one of my favorite parts is they have to destroy the locket. Ron comes back because Harry's trying to get it open and all that. And then they have the sword of Gryffindor, and Ron just destroys it. Ron comes back for vengeance, and he destroys the locket because it was corrupting him, and he took it down. Basically, this all leads to a little bit more camping scenes. They get caught. They go to Malfoy Manor and all that. And a lot happens here. And we get to find Dobby after a while, which is so awesome. But then Dobby ends up passing away. That's the most hard-hitting death in this whole series is Dobby's death. Man, that gets me emotional every time I watch it. But this ending is just so perfect in my opinion because it leads right up to Deathly Hallows Part 2. And I'm pretty sure if you saw it in theaters, you only had to wait like 4 to 6 months for Deathly Hallows Part 2. So lucky you guys if you saw it. But now we're going to number 1, and I'm pretty sure it's obvious of what it's going to be. Alright, number 1 is of course Deathly Hallows Part 2. This one holds a special place in my heart because it was actually one of the first ones I saw when I was finally like a little bit more grown up. I didn't get to see this one in theaters, but I got to see it at home, and it's just a special ending. It's probably one of the better endings to a franchise, just like Return of the King. But the Harry Potter franchise, if you don't count Fantastic Beasts, is probably the best franchise of all time because it has a whole 8-movie series, and no series that has 8 movies has this kind of quality. Because you have no bad movies in the Harry Potter franchise, but Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my favorite Harry Potter movie because it has some tremendous moments and has some tremendous emotion, cinematography. All that is just amazing. We finally go back to Hogwarts. We see Neville. He's glowed up. Neville is now the hottie of the Harry Potter universe somehow. But we go to Hogwarts, and then Harry fights back against Snape, and Snape has to run out, which is just an awesome scene. And then we have basically McGonagall. She starts having all the teachers reinforce Hogwarts. They have the whole dome, and they have all these stone figures come to life. That scene is so cool. It just gets you goosebumps every time you watch it. And then Voldemort is standing on the kind of cliff top by Hogwarts with all of his followers. It has to be like hundreds of people. And you have trolls and all that, Dementors. When he finally takes down the dome, that's got to be one of my favorite moments of this movie because the cinematography. Then you have the close-up on his wand, like getting cracks in it. That is so awesome. Every time I watch it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Oh my gosh, I can watch the Harry Potter movies like so many times. But we have just so much action going on in this movie. That's why I love how they split it in two, because this movie is just all out action. When Voldemort gets into the castle, it's just all out action. And then Harry basically has to like kill himself because he has to get a Horcrux out of him, because he basically has Voldemort's Horcrux in him, which is just kind of freaky to think about because all that just happens. And then we have Ron and Hermione go back down to the chamber. We haven't been down to the chamber since Chamber of Secrets. They go down to the chamber, destroy a Horcrux. They have their first kiss. It's an awesome emotional moment, but Harry ends up dying in the Forbidden Forest to Voldemort. And it's just such a crazy moment because Voldemort just unleashes all of his anger, showing Avada Kedavra, and he basically thinks Harry's dead. But then Draco's mom, Narcissa, I don't really know her name too much, but Draco's mom asks, is Draco okay? And Harry has to like nod just a little bit, but he's still alive, but basically the Horcrux is out of him. And then they make Hagrid carry Harry all the way back to the castle. Then we have a really good emotional speech by Neville. It's just awesome. He pulls the Sword of Gryffindor out of the sorting hat. That's so cool. And then Harry just gets up and it's like a cheering moment. It would be like we have the No Way Home moment with all the 3 Peters last year. And that was such a huge hype moment for everyone. Got me so emotional when I watched it. If Deathly Hallows Part 2 came out today, everyone would be cheering at that moment. It would just be like, it would be a crazy moment to experience in the theaters. And I'm so jealous I didn't get to see any of those movies in the theaters. But that was an awesome moment. Then you have the final duel, basically between Harry and Voldemort, which is just, it's so cool. Even though they're both using like the same spell, the same spell throughout the whole universe, their duel is just it's very awesome. And it basically ends the whole series because Harry ends Voldemort. He turns to dust, kind of like Infinity War, which is kind of funny. But and then you have you decently have a lot of decent deaths in with this one too, because you had to have some because it's the end of the series. Lupin does end up dying, and then it's either Fred or George ends up dying. I always get them wrong. I don't really care. They're twins. What am I supposed to do? I can hardly tell them apart. But one of them ends up dying, and basically the series ends. They're on the bridge by Gryffindor, by Hogwarts, I meant, and Harry destroys the wand. He destroys the wand to basically end the cycle, which is just an awesome ending. Then you have the whole epilogue, which I don't really care too much about the epilogue if we're not going to get another revival of the trio again as adults, which I hope we get. But if we don't, then the epilogue just is kind of stupid in my opinion, but I get it. They're all adults. They have kids now. They're going back to Hogwarts because it's finally fixed up. That probably took a long time to fix up Hogwarts after all that damage. Finally fixed up. Perfect ending to Harry Potter. Number 1, Deathly Hallows Part 2. I love this movie. One of my favorites of all time. As I said, let me know your ranking down below and make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more videos like this, yeah, subscribe. I'll see you guys later.